This is the only Performance Max campaign setup guide you need to know what is the best way to set up a Performance Max campaign for your e-commerce brand. But keep in mind that there's different ways to go about setting up a Performance Max campaign, and it's fully based on the strategy you're using. But with that, let's get right into setting up a solid Performance Max campaign. Now, when we go about setting up a Performance Max campaign, the first thing we see is that Google asks us what our campaign objective is. Obviously, if your main goal is sales, that's exactly what you want to be choosing. You don't want to go after website traffic. You don't want to create a campaign without a goal guidance, none of these other stuff, just sales. From there, when you scroll down, it actually lets you choose a specific conversion goal and a conversion event, which can be associated to the sales objective. And this is very crucial to setting up a Performance Max campaign because this is where majority of the problems arise. Most e-commerce brand owners, what they do is they see all of these three things and they see that if these other ones are inactive, that it's completely fine to just let it be and just click continue. This is the worst thing you can do for your brand because although these two pieces of conversion events are inactive, what you want to understand is Google has billions of dollars worth of data in the backend, which is associated with, for example, phone call leads or sign up. So if you leave these two conversion tracking goals in the campaign, what will happen is even though it's inactive, Google still has its internal way of going after people who would optimize for phone call leads or for sign up. So you want to always ensure there's only one conversion tracking event that's basically chosen here, which is purchases. And from here, you want to make sure it only says one action and doesn't say like 2, 3, 4, because that means you have multiple conversion tracking events firing under the purchases, a major event as well. But from there, once you click continue, we get to this section right here. Now you can either go after shopping or you can either go after Performance Max. Either way, what will happen is that you can turn your Performance Max campaign into a shopping only campaign. So you can go ahead and choose this Performance Max campaign tab right here, scroll down, choose your merchant center, make sure it's the right merchant center account, and then from there you can give your campaign a name. Now normally what we like to do is we like to basically write the strategy that this Performance Max campaign is after first, and then additional things such as the country is targeting and date, etc. So for example, if this is the all-in-one approach, I'll just write all products as the main campaign name. From here, what I can do is I can just type in the USA because that's the only country I'm targeting here, and then we can write today's date. I'm recording this video on the 24th of August. So from there, now we get to the more important parts of a Performance Max campaign, the bidding strategy. Now, there's two options that you can go after. First one is conversions, which means that you have the ability to set a target cost per acquisition for your product. Second goal is conversion value, which means now you can target a specific return on ad spend. Now, this is something I'm speaking from personal experience. 9 out of 10 times we have found more success going after conversion value versus conversions. And this goes down to the fundamentals of how both of these work. Conversions, if you just think about it, this is going to try and get you as many sales as possible, which means there's a possibility if you have like products you sell for $5 versus products you sell for $5,000, Google is going to go after those products which are sold for $5 because it's much easier to get conversions for them. It's much easier to sell them. Whereas if it's conversion value, now Google has to be strategic about it. It has to go after also those $5,000 products on your store, which means now you'll have a bigger conversion value because that's what you're optimizing for. So technically this is the right kind of approach here, but you can of course test both to see what works best for your brand. But in terms of setting a target return on ad spend or target CPA, I always say this, even for the brands I handle under my agency or marketing, follow this. You want to only set a number here if you have previous data, at least $5,000 to $10,000 worth of data on your ad accounts, which tells you what's the average target ROAS is or the average target CPAs. If you don't know these numbers, if you don't know the averages, you're pretty much guessing, which is something you never want to do. So always keep that in mind. But from there, now this is something you can also do here where you can choose to only go after new customers. And the first one essentially still does retargeting, but all you do is you just bid a little bit higher for new customers rather than for the existing customers. And then the second one is where you go fully cold traffic with PMax. This is your ultimate goal at the end of the day later on. But right now, when you're just setting things up with a Performance Max campaign or you're applying a new strategy, it's better to leave this unchecked, especially if your data is not ideal. But from here, we move on now to locations. Again, remember, always target one country per PMax. You never want to overload the algorithm with too many things going on. Language, you can keep it on English, and I like to uncheck both of these boxes. This is going to give Google too much control to go after the URLs it wants to go after unless you exclude them, to go after text assets and make its own text assets, which never is a good idea because Google's algorithm, it's a robot, it's not a real human being. But with that, with more settings, you don't have to change anything here unless you want to, absolutely. But you can also do things such as brand exclusions. If you have specific big brands that you don't want to go after, like your own brand name, then you can create a brand list here after going after your own branded keywords and then just choose it right here, which we already have here. So that's something you can do. But basically from there, just click next. And now we get to the asset group section. Now, the asset group section, first and foremost, if you look at this image which just popped up on the screen, these are the different kind of image sizes and images you need in total. And the amount of images you have in each of these specific categories is entirely up to you. But before we do that, this asset generation section, you want to skip this entirely. You don't want to even get involved in this because it's too much robot in the process. But now we get to the asset group section. Here's where you need to add those headlines, etc. in. Now, I'm going to go over this very briefly just because it's a simple setup and you need to customize it based on your approach. But for the asset group name, again, I like to basically name it after the strategy we're going after here. So if we're going to be adding all these assets, images, logos, etc. in, I'm just going to name this full asset build right here because that's essentially what this means. And you can further narrow it down by choosing specific products you want to target. We want to just target all products here for the sake of this example. Final URL, you want to just target your home page. That's essentially what you want to do. So in this case, we're going to pretend I own google.com and that's what I'm going to write right there. Headline, I recommend you add as many headlines as possible, 10 to 15. And the interesting thing you want to keep in mind with headlines is this is designed to basically go after display traffic. So it's going to appear on blog pages, it's going to appear within Gmail, discovery pages, etc., remarketing, all these different pages, which technically might not be the best just generating sales, but there can be ideal if you do the right kind of copywriting with headlines, descriptions, etc. So if we were selling baby diapers, we could just say, for example, handmade Italian baby diapers as one headline. It's something unique, it's something interesting, it's pretty straightforward as well. But you could also further go on talking about discounts as well, such as 55% off premium baby diapers. Just you want to have as many headlines as possible. Again, that's why I recommend having up to 10 or 15 because you want to give Google the ability to test different things out. From here, you can go and write long headlines as well. These are a bit longer. You want to use up as many characters as much as possible. And if you look right here, Google is giving you some existing kind of examples here. This is based on the URL I just submitted. So you can look at these for inspiration as well. Description, same thing. It's all about copywriting, just going very specific. For the description, you want to follow this kind of layout. In the beginning, you want to include some perceived value increasing words, such as, again, premium, luxurious baby diapers created in Italy, or whatever specific angle you want to show your product with. Then you can go a little bit into the specifications and end it off by talking about number of happy customers, number of satisfied customers, etc. So for example, you could say, for example, over 5319 happy customers, for example, to end off this description. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, but this is adding a little bit of trust directly to your customers. And then this is where we get to the images. Again, those images you should be using specifically based around the sizes of those images. You don't want to just use those that are generated by Google here. You want to again follow the image that I showed you guys earlier. I'll leave the link for these kinds of image dimensions in the description below as well, which you can check out and create them accordingly. But basically it's having horizontal 16:9 images, 1.44:1, 1.43:1, etc. so that Google doesn't have issues going on different kinds of placements and whatnot. But finally, we go on over to logos. You can have one logo here. You don't have to go too crazy there. Write your business name. You can incorporate some videos if you wish, if you have any specific ones that are basically related to your products or just your brand in general. If your brand is in a specific niche, it's not like a one product store, it's always best to have videos which are brand related, talking about the brand as a whole, testimonials about your brand, etc. And then finally, we ended with site link extensions. You want to have specific site link extensions which target different parts of your website. And some good site link extensions could be such as the About Us page, could be such as a specific collection page, the Contact Us page, shipping page, etc. All these things which are going to help the user gain more trust with your website and whatnot is what you should be focused on. And then finally, for the call to action, we want to choose shop now. And here, for example, you can add all of these things in, such as promotions for directly which appear within your search campaigns. If you look right here, this is how it appears. You can add specific prices in, calls if you accept phone calls, etc. So there's a lot of extra things you could go about doing in here, and it's going to really help make your ad different. But keep in mind, whatever approach you take here, whatever strategy you take here, it should be based on your competitors, not just something you randomly launch here. You want to understand what your competitors are doing and what they're not doing, because you want to do what they're not doing if you want to stand out. It's these small things which really make your ad stand out from the rest. And then finally, we get to signals, search themes. So in terms of search themes, I like to go after the major keywords, 5 to 10 major keywords, which I know I want to rank for. So for example, if I'm selling baby diapers, obviously I want to rank for the keyword baby diapers. So I would write that in. I would also write in baby diaper itself without the S, just to give her different variations. Maybe I would say toddler clothes, for example, if I want to go a bit broad. But the main goal here is to keep it a bit narrow and focused on what you are selling, instead of just going too crazy and too broad. And that's what will kind of give the algorithm clear direction, because if you do it too broad, it's going to go crazy and it's going to have much more difficulties finding your ideal audience. But stick to 5 to 10 search themes only. And then this brings us to audience signals. I always like to incorporate only retargeting audiences in here. So for example, people who already purchased from us, for people who already maybe added to cart and didn't purchase, who got down the funnel. I don't like to just target all visitors, because you could be getting a bunch of junk traffic from other placements, and then if you not target that via Google, the PMAX campaign, it's going to lead to more junk traffic. So you want to avoid that at all costs. But from there, if you just click next, it's going to bring you to the daily budget. Don't listen to what Google says right here. I recommend starting at maybe $50 to $100 a day, whatever budget you're fine spending over basically a 7 to 14 day period. But from there, once you click next, that's pretty much it. Make sure everything's good to go, and then just hit submit and publish, and that is your Performance Max campaign. Now, this is the easy part, setting up the Performance Max campaign. The hard part is letting things run, letting things optimize over a 7 to 14 day period, and then eventually optimizing based on results coming in, instead of just going in and shutting things off if something's not working by the second day. You never want to do that. I recommend you check out some of my other videos on mistakes I've made with Performance Max campaigns to avoid really losing money with this kind of setup approach. But if you run a brand doing $1 million a year, you need extra help scaling your brand to the next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me, and let's see if we can potentially work together and make that happen. But check out this case study I did right here of a multi 7-figure brand, which we set up Performance Max campaigns this way and ended up exploding it.